Anne Arundel County is a beautiful place. It's really a microcosm of the United States, the fourth largest jurisdiction in Maryland. We're at over 580,000 now, and we have BWI Airport. Between Baltimore and Washington in that corridor, we have 530 miles of coast right up against the Chesapeake Bay, and of course we're the capital of Maryland. People come here because it's got urban, rural, suburban. It's really a fantastic place to live.
Our award-winning park system has 130 community parks and 6 regional parks. We have 7,100 acres of recreational land, 9,100 acres of natural resource land, and park systems for everyone that lives in and outside of the county.
And Arundel County's done a good job of building our relationships with the community. That helps us make not just the critical decisions, but sound decisions, because we're hearing from a segment of everyone.
There are really 2 things that I think are important for a government. The first is to restore trust. That means restoring trust between people, restore trust in what local government does. And so we've created a thing called Open Arundel, where the residents can go in and look at the performance metrics for every department of county government, and they can engage as well. We do budget town halls in every district, and we make sure that everybody's voice is heard.
Thank you.
And the other is to be healthy, health and wellness for us, our loved ones, our neighbors, our communities. And so I really measure the success of what we do based on health and wellness of our residents.
In land use, we are dedicated to making life better for our residents in Anne Arundel County. Plan 2040 is the guide for the next 20 years to ensure that development is smart, green, and equitable. Smart growth is ultimately health and wellness, because having the ability to walk, development is centered around transit, preserving open space and our natural resources.
Anne Arundel County Department of Recreation and Parks' mission statement is to create opportunities to enjoy life, explore nature, and restore well-being. We have athletic programs, recreational programs, child care services. There's something there for everyone, and we make life better.
In Anne Arundel County, the Department of Health, we are here to prevent, promote, and protect the health of all people in Anne Arundel County and people who visit as well. So our Office of Health Equity and Racial Justice was established when we were looking at what was happening in our county and in the world. And what we saw was persistent disparities in health outcomes based on race, ethnicity, gender, income, and even geography. And so we declared in this county racism as a public health issue in November of 2019, and we formed this Office of Health Equity and Racial Justice to address those issues and advance them.
The Anne Arundel County Police Department was founded in 1937. The agency is very progressive. All of our police officers are fully trained wearing a body-worn camera. We have 2 professors who've come in to help us journey through the history of policing and how policing has impacted communities of color. Having conversations with a facilitator about race and equity and diversity and inclusion, just so that we better understand one another. We have our crisis intervention team where we partner a police officer with a licensed clinician. They respond to these critical calls for service where people are suffering some type of behavioral or mental health crises. So we essentially see them through to any resources that they may require, whether it be a psychologist or drug treatment for longer periods of time. So our team was named the crisis intervention team internationally. That's a huge recognition. So we're asked to go to various police departments to help establish their very own crisis intervention team. There are times where our county departments will overlap, and we have a great working relationship between, OEM and fire. Pre-D Emmerich, we're rendering or offering assistance to help folks through those moments.
The Office of Emergency Management coordinates the planning, response, and recovery to natural and man-made disasters. That involves a couple of steps. Number 1, in the planning process, making sure we have plans ready. Number 2, we exercise and train with our county agencies. Number 3, when it is time to respond, we activate our Emergency Operations Center. And then that's where all the county agencies come in and coordinate the response. And then the 4th step is really the recovery process. So after the response is done, there's still a lot of cleanup work. There's still a lot of community help that's needed and making sure all the county agencies are involved. One of our newest resources is Pepper the Preparedness Pup. We really want to make sure that children understand that to be prepared is the best thing. So to teach them different situations in very simple terms.
Today we are learning about thunderstorms. Do you know what to do during a thunderstorm?
is just the beginning steps of how to be prepared.
Another thing that we all agree on is that there should be economic opportunity for everyone. As a lifelong business person myself, I'm very aware of the fact that what we do for our residents is possible only if the business community is behind it. The businesses are our partners, and together, everything positive we do for our community is helping the quality of life that people of all ages and all income levels need and want. Those are things that we can deliver in Anne Arundel County, and that's what makes us the best place for all.
All right, well, welcome to the first of our 7 budget town halls in Anne Arundel County for our FY23 budget. And I am joined here by Councilwoman Allison Pickard because we are doing District 2 first. And as we showed you this video because it's a nice intro, set the tone. It was done by the International City Managers Association for their annual conference, and they chose a few counties that were doing good work and produced videos. So we thank them for that. I don't want to do a lot of talking before we hear from you. The purpose of this tonight is to hear your priorities and allow everybody to say their piece. But I do want to say that budget is, we make a lot of difficult decisions. The council makes a lot of difficult decisions, and I, as county executive, make a lot of difficult ones, and budget season is the most difficult because we have to make so many tough decisions in such a short amount of time and get a document together that really reflects our values, reflects our priorities, reflects your values and your priorities, and is fiscally responsible and disciplined. And I think it's really important as we look at this for you to know, and I think Councilwoman Pickard agrees with me about this, that we don't want to hear about buying anything or hiring anyone that we don't need. We have limited resources, and so we can't do everything that we want. And I know in these town halls, people usually come in with things that they want rather than explaining how we should pay for them or what we should cut if we add something. And that's understandable, but that's a piece of the puzzle that we have to put together. The other thing that I like to focus on in the budget is that we have to look long-term. The future really does matter. I've got kids. I'm the 8th generation of my family that's been in this county, and I hope that there are another 8 generations that would want to live here. And so it's easy to just think about the next year's budget, or politicians often think about budgeting until the next election to make themselves look good. We absolutely have to budget long-term and invest in our future. And as I look at what we've done, it must, to make it top of my list, to invest in 4 basic principles: restore trust in government, or build trust in government by showing that we're doing a good job, create economic opportunity for everyone in our county, promote smart growth and sustainability, and promote health and wellness. And if it does any of those things, then it's much more likely to be funded in one of those categories. And as I look back on the budgets that we've done, this will be our 4th since I was elected. I see them as moments that reflect the economy and reflect where the county has been. The first budget that we did, the FY20 budget, really was investing in ourselves, getting our police, our teachers, our firefighters increased in numbers and increased in pay so that they were closer to the regional average so that we could hire and retain the best, as well as in investing in our infrastructure. And we made the tough decision to create the Permanent Public Improvements Fund so that we could catch up with our backlog of infrastructure needs in the county. The second budget was tightening our belt because COVID had come and the projections were pretty dire about revenues. And so a lot of folks in the county government didn't get pay raises, and it was a tight year. The third year, things were looking better. We got back on track. And then this 4th year, the way I view it is staying on track and probably, nothing earth shattering and major, but we have to keep up with our basic needs and we have to stay within our means. So that's how I view all of this. I'm eager to hear how you view it all. And I'd like for Councilwoman Pickard to share her thoughts before we start.
Thank you, County Executive Pittman. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight with you. And I'm thankful and grateful for the participants that have logged in tonight. This is the beginning of the budget process. As you know, the council will get the county executive's budget in May, and we'll do the hard work to strike a balanced budget by June 15th. I'm very proud of the budget work that we've done to date, and I feel District 2 has benefited greatly from investments, both in our parks and our schools and our roads, as well as in the human infrastructure that makes this county so great. So I look forward to hearing from everyone tonight and partnering as we move along in this process to make sure we stay on track, as the county executive said. So thanks.
So we have a brief slide presentation before we take testimony. And I've been joined here with our budget officer, Chris Trumbauer, former county councilperson from District 6, Chris Trumbauer. And he's going to lead us off. We're going to do a little bit of tag teaming and get through this as quickly as we can.
Great, thanks, County Executive. Good to see you, Councilwoman Pickard. And just bear with me for a second while I share my screen here and we'll get us going. Okay, so we're going to get through this pretty quickly, but we wanted to give a little bit of a backgrounder before we take public comments. As the county executive said earlier, his administration has put together 3 budgets so far. This will be the 4th one. We feel pretty good about the state of the county and particularly its fiscal standing at the moment, but we can always improve and get better. And we fully expect that the FY23 budget will do that. So as you heard a second ago, we will be introducing the budget, the proposed budget, on April 29th this year. It's by code got to go in on May 1st, but since that's a Sunday, we'll do it the Friday before. And there's a lot of work that happens that leads up to that. We pretty much start putting together the budget almost immediately after the current budget is adopted and goes into effect on July 1st. And the first part of that is the capital budget. We start getting departmental requests on what sort of projects they want to add in. And where you can see in this slide, the circle of where you are, we're in January, and you can see now we're coming up on the decision points for capital budget. And we're just kind of starting or in the middle for the expense budget or operating budget, getting the departmental requests. So we're still mostly at the beginning, and that's why it's important that the county executive and the council holds these meetings now, because there's plenty of time for constituents to provide their insight and input before we have to make decisions on what makes it into the budget and what doesn't. So the next step in the process is the capital budget will go to the Planning Advisory Board, which is made up of 7 residents in the county. And then we will also be reviewing it from the administration perspective. And then the final review for the county exec happens in March and April, where he has to make those hard decisions of what goes in and what can't make it that he referenced before. Then the council has 45 days to deliberate once it's introduced, and by our charter has to strike the budget by June 15th. Then of course it goes into effect on July 1st, and then a couple weeks later, we start working on the next budget. Here's a snapshot of where our revenue comes from. You can see that there are 2 large sources. Our biggest components are property taxes and local income tax. That makes up the bulk of our revenue, but there's some other very important components as well. Recordation and transfer tax is what we get from real estate transactions. That has been a fairly high number the last couple of years as the real estate market has picked up considerably. And then we have a number of other revenue sources, things like local sales tax, which is for parking lots at BWI airports and things like that. State shared revenue, that's a couple different components, but we get things like money from live casino and then license.
Looks like Chris is frozen. I can jump in here and keep us going until
$3 billion.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so then the other side of the books is where does the money go? So what you can see here is that the Board of Ed gets $897 million. That's about half of our overall budget goes to the school system. And that's certainly a priority. The next big component is public safety. So this is police, fire, emergency services, and detention. That's $370.5 million. Then we have our general kind of core government agencies. And then after that is health and human services. And then debt service is the payments we have to do for our bonds that fund our capital budget programs. Then we have our land use agencies. And then what we call our component units are other factions in government that are a little bit more independent. Those are the community college, the library, and the judicial system around us out there. So the graphic to the left shows you kind of proportionally how those fit in. And you can see the Board of Ed is by far our biggest expense each and every year. Here's a little bit of a breakdown of that. So we give $784.7 million this year directly to the Board of Education. And then there's also some other county funding that's baked into our budget within our agencies, but also goes to the school system. So we pay the debt service on their capital program, that's $96.6 million. We pay for school health officers, which are extremely important, especially now, that's 15.5. And then school safety, which is the school resource officers as well as crossing guards, that is included too. So the grand total there is 896.6. And as you can see, that's over half, that's 51% of our total budget. So I'm going to turn it back over to the county executive so he can run through some of the highlights in the existing budget in fiscal year 22.
Yeah, so we're just gonna pull out a few things that are of note that might be good for people to keep in mind. We budgeted conservatively the previous year. The things where the economy was better than projected during COVID, so we ended up with a fund balance. We were able to do what a business does when things are going better, which is to fix the roof, so or infrastructure improvements. And one of the things we did was 11 million more into the rainy day fund. The bond rating agencies like that, so that's our reserve fund. We also changed how we calculate what we project to be the return in our pension fund. So by lowering that level, we put in more, it sets us up better for the future in a bad economy. And then debt affordability is in the capital budget. And the budget that we inherited, the last administration, was overspending debt affordability by 76%. And we lowered it each year and got it down to zero. So we intend to continue working within our means. Next slide. And then education, I think, or was it, okay, public safety. So we have invested and increased our investment in public safety each year. And as a result of that, I'm very proud to say that while the rest of the country and the region, violent crime has been increasing in the last year, ours actually declined 11%. So thank you to all of our police officers and our community leaders and everybody in our community for that. We've expanded our crisis intervention teams. They're the best in the world. That's where our mental health providers go out with our officers during crises. We've created a new community service bureau, partly by rearranging positions, but it elevates the community policing work within the department. And we've also, one of the big things that we did this year for the fire department was increase the very expensive and time-consuming training to become a paramedic, because we needed more paramedics, and I'm glad that we've done that during this pandemic. Next slide. And then education, we added 35 new classroom teachers in the last budget, 15 new behavioral health special ed positions. And then on teacher compensation, we fully funded the Board of Ed's request. The most important part of that, in my view, was that we finally dealt with the back steps that teachers had been promised but not gotten after the last recession. And so we had teachers that were way off of scale, and we've gotten them over the last 3 budgets. We've made all of that up, and so they're back where they should be based on what they were promised. Next slide. And then infrastructure, the Route 2 and Route 3 corridors are our worst traffic nightmares. We all know that. And for years and years, the county has been trying to get state highways to invest. What we did was, with our permanent public improvements fund, we created money that we could use as a carrot to bring them to the table. So close to $20 million for Route 2 and $8 million $8 million for Route 2, $20 million for Route 3 corridors. And there's now a plan and an agreement with state highways to move forward on opening up some of those bottlenecks on those two roads. So that will be underway soon. Fire stations, in the 6-year plan, we have 5 of them that are either being rebuilt or built. And then keeping up with our school construction plan, which we had a good plan. We knew we needed to pursue it, but we just didn't, there was no way to do that without this permanent public improvements fund. And we've managed to keep up. So we've got in our 6-year plan, $771 million. And District 2, I think, is getting more of that money than anybody else. We won't tell the other districts, but Old Mill is underway, and you can see the construction out there, and we're all thrilled about that. I know Councilwoman Pickard is more than anybody. Then on the environment, we created a stormwater strike team, 3 positions to deal with what we all know is the flooding and with these rains at development sites and at sites that have already been developed to make sure that we're managing stormwater better than we ever have. The climate change is causing problems that we're going to need to address. And so we've created the first independent resilience authority, climate resilience authority in the country. The council put $500,000 to staff that, and we are about to announce the director of that. And that's going to be a way to get the cost of a lot of those infrastructure changes, elevating roads, raising city dock in Annapolis is one of them, so that it's not put on the taxpayers. It's funded creatively based on funding sources that are going to depend on what that project is. We've also put $250,000 into a forest conservation mitigation fund for county projects where we need to do forest conservation. Added $1 million for our new Greenways land acquisition fund. It's part of our Plan 2040 green infrastructure plan. And then we've also started to invest in our electric vehicle charging network and transferring county vehicles to all electric. Next slide. And then in District 2, I should let Councilwoman Pickard do this, but I'll just let you look at the slide. Some work at Glen Burnie parking garage, the 170 widening, resurfacing of 17 miles of roads. I think the one that most of us are most excited about is those 4 schools that you can see on there where we're investing. And then, you know, the parks investment is always so important for the quality of life. So the North Aquatic pool is getting a splash pad, and the Glen Burnie ice rink is getting its renovations, as well as some improvements to fields, and then the tennis court improvements at Glen Burnie High School. So next slide. Sorry, I'm talking fast, but we got a lot.
Yeah, I think this is where I take back over for you, Mr. County Exec. So we've been looking at the current budget in fiscal 22, but looking ahead a little bit towards fiscal 23, which is the budget that the County Exec will introduce in a few months. When we look at our current year budget revenue projections, they're coming in a little bit better than projected, and that's of course good news. Part of that is because of the federal stimulus. Part of it is because we're seeing legitimate wage growth, and so that's being reflected in our revenue sources as well. So as we look forward, we're projecting what I'm calling cautious optimism. We think that incremental recurring revenue, which is how much more money we get each year because of regular growth, we're saying that looks pretty stable going into next year. However, the warning sign here is we're seeing expenses rise a lot because of inflation. So although our revenue looks strong, our increase in expenses is going to eat up a lot of that growth. So we've got to still be very cautious to live within our means. And we also, even though the numbers are coming in strong now, we have to be wary that we're still in the midst of a pandemic. We're going to see what happens with Omicron. There could be another variant after that. And we just have to be mindful that can be very disruptive. But again, cautious optimism is how we're kind of framing this for the moment. We're looking at a pretty healthy fund balance as a result of our savings and expenditures over the last couple of years and from budgeting conservatively last year. So that fund balance can be used for what we call one-time expenditures. So that would be things like equipment, that would be buying stuff or paying for temporary things. But we're very cautious not to use this one-time funding on what we call recurring expenses, which would be things that have a cost year over year. Because if we did that, it would increase our structural deficit, and it would present a situation where when that one-time money goes away, we still have the expense without the revenue. And that's not a good budgeting principle. So over on the right, you see a little blurb about our American Rescue Plan funding. We received $56 million in May of last year. We're set to receive the second payment of another $56 million in May of this coming year, May 22. And we've made very good use of that funding, I think, at the direction of the county executive to react to some of the impacts from the pandemic and do some other things that are really helping county residents. Some of the things on the expenditure side, non-discretionary. So these are things that we have to pay for no matter what. The bond payment, the interest on bond payments, we call that debt service. So those obviously increase every year. We're going to have to build that in. There's generally an increase in health insurance and pension contribution. And then, of course, we negotiate with our labor unions and our bargaining units for their pay package. Inflation has been high these last few months and is expected to stay high. So we know when that happens that there's a lot of pressure for people to get cost of living adjustments. And so that's going to be something we're paying a lot of attention to. Some other things where we would consider discretionary increases. So these aren't mandated, but they're something that generally we try and provide for. We have our what we call non-represented employees, which are not part of labor union groups, but we want to make sure they're treated fairly as well. Funding for our community college, and then also enhanced health and human services program, not only to deal with COVID, but to deal with some of the inequities that COVID has really underscored during these last few years of the pandemic. And then, of course, we have our departments are always requesting additional programs and support to help meet the needs. For many, many years, I think the county didn't really receive adequate funding for all the programs. And so the administration has been trying to kind of address that backlog for a while, and we want to continue that progress. So I tell people that if you live in Anne Arundel County, you're getting a really great deal. And here is a visual representation of this. What you see here is our property tax rates in yellow compared with all the other 23 counties in Maryland, which includes Baltimore City. Our friends in Baltimore City are the outlier over on the left. They're paying the most by far, but then you can see that most other counties, and especially the larger Central Maryland counties, they're all over $1 per $100 of assessed value. In Anne Arundel, we're getting a good deal. You're paying 0.933 per $100 of assessed value, and that's the 7th lowest in all of Maryland, and it's by far the lowest in Central Maryland in the large counties. Similarly, on the income tax side, we're in Anne Arundel, we have the 4th lowest tax rate, local income tax rate in the entire state. Most of the large counties and about half of the entire state are paying the state maximum, which is 3.2%. In Anne Arundel, we're much lower than that. We're 2.81%. And you can see there's only 3 counties that have a lesser rate, and those 3 are very rural counties that don't have as much going on as Anne Arundel does. Garrett out in far western Maryland, and then Talbot and Worcester on the eastern shore.
Thanks, Chris. And let me just mention also, a third of the county residents just got their new assessments from the state of Maryland that values property. And as usual, assessments have gone up. Good news is that the value of your house is going up, but it's average of 8% on homes in the county for that 1/3. If you apply and if you live in your home, you get the Homestead Tax Credit that keeps your value from going up more than your assessment from going up more than 2% in a year. So we're going to be putting out more information to make sure that everybody has applied for who is eligible that protection against increases in their assessments. Real quick, the federal money, the CARES Act money that you may have heard about, $101 million is spent, and we've reported on that. Most of that was spent on things like food distribution and COVID the response to COVID and a lot of health and human service things during that, and PPE and all that. So then they started the American Rescue Plan, which was divided into two pieces, 56 million we've gotten and another 56 million we will get in May. And if you jump to the next slide, you can see how we've spent the first part of our ARPA funding. It's a little bit more than the first year, but some of that funding goes over 2 years. So we're not overspending, I promise you that. But county operations, as a result of COVID, that we have had to do things like, for instance, our solid waste fees would have gone up because the costs of them hiring people and finding truck drivers went up. So we had to supplement to keep them picking up your trash. Rather than raise the rate, we used some of our ARPA money. That's an example. Then food assistance, health and wellness was in yellow here. We did the premium pay and the vaccine incentives, partly because of that COVID year where folks didn't get pay increases, and partly to incentivize. So that was a small part of that. So next slide. You can also go to, well, yeah, let's see, next slide. If you go to Open Arundel at this site, you can look at the details of how we've spent our CARES and our ARPA money, as well as just about anything else you want to know about county government. If you're really a government nerd and you want to do some research, this is the place to go. So next slide is something that I'm really excited about, because the first year we created a thing what we call the budget tool, where you could go in and you could create your own budget by making adjustments in categories. But I was a little frustrated, and others were as well, that you couldn't go very deep. So what Chris is about to show you is not all available yet to the public, but it will be very soon. They're still working on it to do the beta testing and all of that. But this is an amazing tool that you can really dig into our budget. So Chris, can you show us what you got?
Yes. So what I'm going to do is run through a little bit of a demo to show the capability of this. As County Executive Pittman said, it's not quite ready for prime time yet, but he's so excited about it. He wanted to show it off on his town hall. So this will give you an idea of what's coming. So I think what I can do is, stop sharing here, load this up. Okay, so what you have here is just a little bit of a homepage, and there's two paths we can take. We can look at expenditures and we can look at revenue. So just to give you an idea, I'm gonna click on revenue, and this shows you the various revenue sources. This is very similar to the slide you saw in the presentation. But what's cool about this is you can actually click on it and see details. So I'll just click on fees for services, and you'll see, okay, look at all these different things. We have administrative fees, cable fees, rec and park fees, and you can click on these and get even more detail on where that's coming. So it really allows you to kind of dive deep and find out what's going on, and compare that to other categories. And you can do that for a variety of different things on all of this. So that's a quick look at revenue. We can go back on the expenditure side and figure out where the money is coming from. And what do you think, Mr. County Exec? You want to look at Rec and Parks?
I know you want to look at Rec and Parks.
Well,
it's Chris's favorite department. He's not allowed to say that, but he thinks it's the Department of Fun. Do you have your Ranger hat to wear for this?
Oh, I left that at the office, but maybe next time. So you can click on any department, and then you can get a detail here. And so I'm going to explain this very quickly. Up here on this kind of upper left quadrant, you're seeing the budget objects. So these are different categories of how money is being spent. So for the Department of Rec and Parks, you see personnel services is the biggest chart here. And then you have contractual services, and then some smaller ones over there. On the bottom, this is broken down by the different bureaus. So the department has 4 different bureaus, and these make sense if you think about it. They've got a parks bureau, a rec bureau, golf courses, and then the director's office, which is their administration. And so you can dive into any of these and get even more detail by clicking on them. You can see how their previous budgets have been in actuals versus what was budgeted. And then you can get a breakdown of the different objects within those individual bureaus. So if I go back here, there's one other thing you can do. If you want to look at expenses, you can look at positions. So this tells you all of the positions within the department, and then you can total it up over the bottom and you can see how it's grown. So back in 2018, for example, the department had 95 full-time positions. Their work has grown a lot, and this administration has invested in that. So you can see that they now have 110 positions, and you can see that charted up here. And again, you can see their budget over the past couple years here. So that's a real quick look at what you're able to do with this tool. Again, we hope to make this live in the coming weeks or months, definitely before we introduce the FY23 budget. But I want to give credit to Stephen Turow in the budget office, because he's developed this internally using a platform called Tableau, and it's really great to have that expertise in-house. So with that, I think I can get back out of here into our slideshow and turn it back over to the county exec to close us down on this.
And that's it. I'm going to turn it over to James Kitchen, who's our Director of Community Engagement and Constituent Service, to start the public testimony part. And I believe that both I and Councilwoman Pickard will not be responding to each comment, but we will at the end. If you can hang with us that long, we will summarize what we heard and probably respond to some of it. So
we do want to remind you, I think, Mr. County Exec, that this is the email on the screen. So if you don't testify tonight, or you have friends that want to send information, FY23 budget comments at aacounty.org, and this will also be online on the budget tool. And this page that we did before, this is the Your Budget tool. So you can go to aacounty.org/yourbudget, and you can get a lot of the information that we presented tonight in this presentation will also be on Your Budget. And then it will also have a link to this presentation, and we will similarly include each presentation from each town hall on this page. So that's it. I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to James.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Mr. County Executive. We are now ready for the public comment testimony part of the evening. And so the way this will work is at the bottom of your screen, there is the icon where you can press the button to raise your hand. So you can raise your virtual hand. That will create a list that we can see. And what I will do is I will call you 3 at a time. And when I call your name, we will give you the ability to unmute yourself. And you will have 2 minutes to make a comment to the county executive and Councilwoman Pickard about what you'd like to see in this year's budget and how you want your tax dollars prioritized. As you can see here, there will be a 2-minute timer to help you keep track of how long your comment has been. And I will have to ask you to stay within your time frame, and might have to nudge you if you're starting to go over that. But with that, if people would like to raise their hand, we're starting to get some here. So the first 3 speakers will be Brian Holzlander and Joanna Furman, and then Kathy Hollerback. So Brian, can you unmute yourself and give your testimony?
Thank you very much, County Executive Pittman and Councilwoman Pickard. My name is Brian Holzlander. I represent Anne Arundel County Professional Firefighters, Local 1563. It's been a long year, and we have a lot to be proud of. Our firefighters have been on the front lines, and because of the investment we had in last year's budget in things like PPE and ambulances, and when I say PPE, I mean protective equipment, the masks, the gloves, the gowns, we were able to be real aggressive and safe with getting out there and protecting our citizens through COVID-19. We're in the second phase of that battle now, though, and we really need your support moving forward. We've had a lot of fatigue. We've had early retirements. It's just taken a lot of the wind out of our firefighters and paramedics. And so we encourage you and encourage the public to support Chief Wolford's budget, encourage continued investment in paramedic training so we can replenish the ranks of those that we've lost through job fatigue, and so that we can continue to be one of the premier fire departments and public safety services here in Maryland. And we're only that because of the support that we have both in the county council, the county executive's office, and in the households throughout the county. So Thank you to everyone for your support through this difficult time, and we wish you all the best, and we'll continue to be there every day, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Joanna Furman.
My name is Joanna Furman. I'm speaking as a board member of Friends of Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control, the nonprofit that Shelter Volunteers created in 2014. We first want to thank Mr. Pittman and the County Council for holding these budget town halls and for acting on many of our previous requests. You have helped improve and save the lives of homeless pets in Anne Arundel County. Shelter supporters are back for our third year of budget presentations because there still are important things left to be done. These important things include hiring a full-time staff veterinarian. We all agree the shelter needs a vet on its staff, but the current budget only funded a part-time vet with no benefits, a position still vacant despite being advertised for many months. A part-time job without benefits cannot compete with the full-time jobs with benefits being offered to veterinarians who are in very high demand. Funding equipment, such as a dental x-ray machine and dental cleaning tools for the shelter's bare bones clinic, and also increasing the medical budget to improve the health, comfort, and adoptability of the shelter's pets. Buying a livestock trailer. Without a livestock trailer, the shelter currently has to scrounge for transportation every time a pig, cow, or other larger animal strays. Hiring an assistant for the shelter's rescue, volunteer, foster special events coordinator. That is her title. Right now, this one person is expected to find and screen outside rescue partners that will take hundreds of animals, to oversee dozens of volunteers who donate 10,000 hours a year, to place more than 500 animals a year with foster families, who she also screens, and to organize public events such as offsite adoption events, Santa pet photos, and the shelter's annual Halloween family party. Last but not least, starting to plan a new shelter to replace the existing 22-year-old structure that does not meet current sheltering guidelines. Thank you for listening and for helping Anne Arundel County's neediest pets.
Thanks, Joanna. And Kathy Hollerback.
Hi, my name is Kathy Hollerback, and I am the Chief Operating Officer of Anne Arundel County Public Library. I'm testifying this evening in support of the library's budget, as well as to ask for your support on two critical supplemental requests. First, we are seeking funding to initiate a transformative outreach program we call the Center for Community Engagement. The purpose of this center is to reach people in the greatest need who cannot easily get to the libraries. We will meet people where they are, giving them the services they need to transform our lives. One of the program's primary focuses is to increase kindergarten readiness across the county by reaching parents and childcare providers. As you know, only 46% of our children are ready for kindergarten. Even more alarming, only 34% of African American Anne Arundel County children and 28% of Hispanic or Latinx children are assessed as ready. We believe the center can build on our existing Every Child Ready to Read program to increase kindergarten readiness. Through meeting families and caregivers in their neighborhoods, we can teach early literacy skills to parents and caregivers, who in turn become a child's first teacher. We've asked for $4.1 million and 3,000 square feet of space, staff, and 8 vehicles. We've expressed to county administrators our openness to starting this out smaller, but full impact would be only accomplished with complete proposal being funded. Additionally, the center could partner with other agencies to provide social services, healthcare, and other services. Second, I urge your support of our request for market rate adjustments for some of our lowest paid staff. Library staff are our most valuable asset and absolutely critical to providing the top-notch service our customers have come to rely on. Every day, our staff are helping build stronger communities. Besides what we're known for, loaning out books, our staff are handing out COVID test kits and hosting vaccine clinics, handing out food and collecting diapers for needy families. They're helping people fill out job applications and learn skills for new high-tech jobs. Please help us retain these employees by giving them the tools to bring our salaries to market rate. We're only asking for $170,000. Thank you for the support of our new buildings in Glen Burnie and Millersville and the new Riviera Beach Library scheduled to open later this year. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kathy. And the next three I have up are Bernie Robinson, Luis Lucchini, and Andy Schindling. If you would like to get ready, and Bernie, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, sir. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Pittman for funding key environmental areas. Secondly, I'd like to thank Honorable Allison Pickard for her tireless efforts in benefiting this district in so many areas, whether it's parks and rec or things such as making our community greener and hopefully in the future even more so because we have a long ways to go, such as eliminating these plastic bags that hang like ghosts from trees and pollute our waterways and cram up recycling facilities. And just in general, her efforts towards improving the environment. And I encourage strongly anything that can be done to make our community greener that helps mental health, physical health and well-being, not to mention a visually better environment and something for our children to look forward to. And lastly, I do encourage any funding for public water access, as we are a waterways community, as we all know. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. And Luis Lucchini, you should now be able to unmute yourself and give your testimony.
Yes, thank you. Esteemed county officials, I have two requests. First, I would like to see future investments to make the heart of downtown Glen Burnie a pleasant, human-scaled, and walkable area. Slow down the traffic there, raise the crosswalks to match the sidewalks, add protected bike lanes in all the main roads connecting neighborhoods to downtown. Build them and they will come. Send a message that people are more important than cars. The best places to live are not the ones with the fastest highways. It's usually the ones where cars are not required. Second, I'd like to urge you to look at our land the way that leaders of a corporation look at their most valuable assets. The Strong Towns and Urban 3 organizations have opened my eyes to how local governments tend to mismanage land by subsidizing poor land use, often rewarding the least productive endeavors. Land productivity is often measured as tax revenue for a parcel divided by the size of that parcel. For context, our Walmart on Quarterfield Road, a notoriously bad performer across America, pays about $13,000 per acre used. In contrast, the little Faith Girl Beauty Studio downtown, that building pays $155,000 per acre. That's about 12 times more than a Walmart. The apartments downtown, $90,000. However, the building right next to it with the delicious sushi already drops to $20,000. That is likely due to parking minimum requirements that we have. Please take time to discuss this approach with your teams. Please do all you can do to support and foment investments by local individuals who are actually invested in our community. Encourage gradual incremental growth, and for the love of goodness, look at Glen Burnie as the potentially incredible downtown that it can be. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Andy Schindling was next up.
Yeah, thank you for tonight and this opportunity. Just want to talk on behalf of the Complete Player Charity, small nonprofit here doing after-school programming. It's no secret that our youth are struggling. The significant increases in the mental health issues in the northern part of the county, the increases in youth disconnectedness in the northern part of the county. And obviously, with Glen Burnie being the home to the most homeless youth in the area, I really want to ask that you consider our proposal and grant request through the CSG, which I thank you, County Executive Pittman, for restarting that opportunity for our nonprofits in the community, and also the project narrative we submitted late last fall to help expand after school and summer programs. It's very vital for our students and their growth and development to help with the education gaps that our students are seeing. And the data shows that after school and summer programming play a significant role in the social and emotional development of our adolescents. I also don't want to just advocate on behalf of myself and my organization, but for all after school programs in the community, that the county does, look to significantly fund these opportunities. With ours alone, funding from these grants will help bring our program to Glen Burnie High School, which we're looking to kick off a pilot program here in the next couple of weeks. But ultimately, we'll be able to double our impact in the number of students served and the number of schools served in the county. And also want to advocate for the Green Space Initiative. Can we get some areas to implement a community garden in the northern part of the county to help with these food desert problems that we're seeing But thank you for this time and for your services to our county.
All right, thanks, Andy. And the next three up are Greg Metzler, Jennifer Hardy, and then Lisa I, it looks like.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to thank County Executive and Councilwoman Pickard for supporting teachers. I'm a fourth generation county resident and also a 19-year veteran ACPS. And I don't know if many in the community know, but up until this year, a teacher from outside ACPS could have been hired with the exact same level of experience that I have and would have been making thousands of dollars more than a loyal veteran. So thank you all for supporting. There are a lot of machinations we got to go through with approval, you know, through our union and the board, and of course, the financial support from the county executive and county council is one of the most important pieces of that. So thank you for supporting that and making that happen. I also want to ask, up until about a few months ago, my partner worked for the Anne Arundel County Police 911 Center, and I want to advocate for a new center. You know, I heard a lot of stories from behind the scenes about technology and staffing issues there. And there had been a consolidated fire and police 911 center, a new one that was to be built, and that got scrapped. The center is really behind the times with regard to technology, and staffing is always an issue. So I think a new 911 center being put front and center in the police county budget would go a long way to improving morale down there and improving services in the county. So thank you. That's all.
Thanks, Greg. And Jennifer Hardy, you're up.
Hi, this is actually Michael Hardy. I'm using my wife's account. I hear a lot of people, they had specific items that they wanted to pitch, and mine's more of a general nature. And I think one of the most pressing issues is infrastructure. Allison herself has been out to not only my property, but the surrounding properties, and they're just in need of upgrades. And when you laid out the budget, the biggest part that contributes to that budget is the property taxes. And, you know, the comment was made that we're getting a great deal living in Anne Arundel County. And it seems like that's just taken advantage of, that we have low taxes, so let's raise them. However, the infrastructure of stormwater management and roads, they don't seem to keep up with the amount of building that's going on. Just in my area, the roads are already at capacity. Same way with stormwater management is inaccurate and not up to code, but yet 2 major complexes just broke ground for houses plus a business park. So we're allowing builders to build, but we're not upkeeping with the infrastructure. The other area would be the police. I think the police probably need more funding. I see some of the crime from Baltimore bleeding over into the county. I see dirt bikes routinely in my neighborhood that are untagged. They do wheelies, they ride on shoulders. I see them doing it up and down Ritchie Highway. I see ATM thefts, robberies, and carjackings. So the infrastructure, I think, needs to be looked at, as well as more money for police, fire, and rescue.
All right, thanks, Michael. And Lisa is next up.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Ingram, and I'm a resident of District 2. I have been a volunteer at Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control for 10 years. I'm a member of the Animal Welfare Council and a previous president of Friends of Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control. Although you've been very responsive to the requests that shelter supporters have made at budget town halls in 2020 and 2021, Animal Care and Control still has some important unmet needs. First and foremost, in my mind, is the need to hire a staff veterinarian. A 2018 state law that sets minimal care standards for public animal shelters requires that a veterinarian supervise the medical care of all animals at a shelter. But our shelter has never had a vet on its staff. In contrast, Baltimore County Animal Services, which I believe is about the same size as our shelter, last time I checked, had 4 vets on its staff. This year's budget included funds for a part-time vet with no benefits. This position's been advertised for many months, but it remains vacant. Why? Because vets who must go to school for 4 postgraduate years are in extremely high demand. A vet hospital less than 5 minutes away from the shelter is advertising right now for vets who will earn up to $150,000 a year, and many other benefits. The hospital itself has state-of-the-art equipment. To compete, Animal Care and Control has to offer what other local public shelters offer: a full-time position with reasonable salary and benefits, plus the medical budget needed to do the job properly. I hope you give the shelter funds to hire a full-time vet and increase its medical budget. Thank you for listening.
All right, thanks, Lisa. Next up, I have O'Brien Atkinson. And I will say, if anyone else is interested in making comment, please remember to click that raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. Obi, you're up.
Hi, good evening. My name is Corporal O'Brien Atkinson. I am the president of our Anne Arundel County Fraternal Order of Police, representing our professional police officers here in Anne Arundel County. First, I want to thank County Executive Pittman and Councilwoman Pickard for attending the graduation ceremony today in North County. I think that was a great service we had today. However, I'm sure you noticed, like I did, that the class of 12 officers was much smaller than what we've kind of become accustomed to, especially under this administration. You have invested in police and in public safety. We have, our last classes were 45, 30, 44, 46 officers respectively, but it's getting tougher and tougher to hire people into our noble profession. We really need to increase our starting salary and continue the investment that we've made thus far. We need a starting salary that competes with Baltimore City. As Mr. Metzler pointed out, he mentioned the 911 center. We do not represent our dispatchers. However, our dispatchers need your support and your investment. I would very much like to encourage the county and the administration to look at our dispatchers, look at the situation that they're in right now. I think maybe on both the police and fire side, and look at making an investment there. But I appreciate all the support that you've both offered during these last several years. Much improvement to prior administrations, and thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Next 3 up are Luis Gengler-Thomas, Terry Allen, and then Joanne Zoller. Luis?
Unmute. Hello, my name is Louise Thomas, and I am with the Tennis Alliance of Anne Arundel County. I would like to address health and wellness and the need in Anne Arundel County for more indoor recreational facilities that offer affordable sports programming for youth, for seniors, for those with disabilities, after school programs. The Tennis Center at Millersville project has worked its way through the budget approval process since 2016. It's about 15 minutes or so from most District 2 residents, 16 minutes from Glen Burnie, 14 minutes from Severn Elementary, 14 minutes from Glen Burnie Park Elementary School. Please complete the project, and thank you for all you do for Anne Arundel County residents. Thank you.
Thanks, Luis. And Terry Allen, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi, this is Pastor Terry Allen. I thank you for having me. I thank for having us aboard. Our concern is our church and our community outreach, the development program we have in Anne Arundel County and Glen Burnie. We know we just heard of development that may be going on in the future, but our concerns is to keep continually to do what we need to do as far as our community outreach. We do a lot with Toys for Tots. We give out book bags. We got a lot of things we do as far as drug treatment programs. We do during the day concerts, everything that deal with community, and we address so many needs with so many different demographics around this county. And we on the front line of what you see in the community with a lot of young people. We try to keep them engaged, be more upbeat, lively, and more, I say, progressive with dealing with a lot of youth and young adults in our community. Our prayers to continue to keep doing what we're doing, and we need our support from our local officials to support us in everything we do, not for our finances, but to continue to stay in our county facility and keep doing what we need to do. And I thank you for having us, Councilwoman Allison Pickard and Stuart Pittman, to have me aboard, and pray that we can continually do what we do. Thank you, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Pastor Allen. And Joanne Zoller, you are up.
Okay, my name is Joanne Zoller. I live in District 2, and I'm not here to ask for funding for anything beyond what you've already planned. I just wanted to say that I'm so happy that you have such strong support of education, that you have paid a lot of attention to environmental issues, that you have a government that's open for public comment, and at the same time, you have a commitment to fiscal responsibility. I'm very happy with your leadership. You can have.
All right, thanks, Joanne. Is there anyone else? I don't see anyone else their hand raised now. Is there anyone else who would like to raise their hand and give public comment? Give you all a minute to do so if you would like to. All right, I do not see anyone else. And so I am going to pass it back to the Councilwoman Pickard and the County Executive for closing comments. Councilwoman Pickard.
Thank you, Mr. Kitchen. Appreciate you moderating our public testimony today. It was nice to see constituents engaging on this budget town hall this afternoon, or this evening, I should say. We have a lot of work ahead with the budget. I didn't hear any surprises. I think everything from our 911 center to our need to shore up our salaries in public safety, none of it is a surprise to me, and it's things we've been working on since the 2020 budget, and I feel confident that we'll continue to make the investments. I know some constituents talked about infrastructure and roads and stormwater. Seems like we're all singing from the same sheet of music, so to speak. These are the investments that we've been making over the last 3 years, and I look forward to seeing the county executive's budget as we continue to invest in those areas. So thank you for your time tonight, and please reach out. I'm happy to come speak and meet with your community groups and your homeowners associations, PTAs. Happy to speak about budget issues and other constituent issues at any time, but thank you for all of your commentary tonight. It's very, very helpful. You're muted.
Right. Thank you, Councilwoman Pickard. I have to say that Councilwoman Pickard for District 2 has been a great partner, and we're doing a lot, particularly Glen Burnie. I was really thrilled to hear Strong Towns, the organization, mentioned, and making Glen Burnie Town Center and the whole community more walkable. And I think you're going to see real progress on that front coming soon. I'm always glad to hear from our police department and our fire department, from the unions that represent our firefighters and our police officers in particular. They have served us very, very well, and we need to serve them and support them in our budgets every year. Animal care and control. I love that every year you come with new projects, and we haven't done everything you've asked, but we've done some of it. And I'm disappointed that the veterinary services have been hard to come by, and I think we have to take another look at that. And I might know where you can get a livestock trailer, but we'll talk about all of that. And I look forward to working with you on that. And I was really pleased to hear talk about after school programs, kindergarten readiness. The libraries always have some great ideas for growth and innovative work. Our libraries are like our community centers in Anne Arundel County, and we love them and want to support them. Kindergarten readiness is something that I have pledged to increase, and I think that we can increase the percentage of our kids that are entering kindergarten ready in the coming years. So we have a lot of work to do. And I also want to mention the 911 call center. I've been hearing about this. There was a plan that was looked at and wasn't quite right. And we're continuing to look at it. But I'm not only concerned about the facility. I'm concerned about the work conditions, and particularly the police 911 call center, and how those folks are compensated. It's a difficult job. They're our first responders. And I think we need to do better by them, and we're going to figure out how to do that. But lots to do, and it's going to be a challenge. And I want to thank everybody for being with us. And I look forward to the next 6 budget town halls in the coming weeks. So have a great evening, everybody, and thank you.
Recording.